Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to TalkSports. It is our Saturday sports special. And on this weekend's program, we have with us the Deputy Chairman of the Local Organizing Committee of the CARIFTA Games 2024 to be staged in Grenada at the end of this month. Mr. Aaron Moses is joining us. And as usual, my co-host Rudian Silvan is in Toronto, Canada. Following Mr. Moses' presentation, as I would say, we will go into some discussions regarding a review of the National Athletics Championships, the primary schools, the National Primary Schools Athletics Championships as well. And then we look at the preview to the Intersecondary Schools Athletics Championship next week at the CARIFTA Games athletic stadiums. We'll also look at some other issues, some commentaries that have been making the rounds over the past few days. So let's welcome our guest to the program, Mr. Aaron Moses, and a pleasant, well, it's good afternoon in your neck of the woods, Mr. Moses. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon. It's my pleasure once again to join you guys.
Yes, and we basically on the countdown. Well, the last time you were on the program, you were there with Mr. Mike Sands sometime last year, where we were looking at the Grenada hosting the games and preparations on the way. At this stage, we basically in the home stretch, I should say, with the National Primary School, the National Athletics Championship first, and then the primary schools as probably forerunner to the new tracks being laid at the CARIFTA Games Athletic Stadium. But we'll get to you, Mr. Moses, in terms of giving us a picture of where we are now in terms of the preparations for the CARIFTA Games 2024. So, Mr. Moses, so exactly where we are in terms of the local organizing committee, in terms of preparation for this year's CARIFTA Games.
Okay, as you indicated, we are on the home stretch. Planning commenced immediately after we won the bid last year. And you must recall, this is going to be our third occasion of hosting the games. And fortunately, I would say about 60 to 70% of the current LOC have experiences from both of those games. And so we are off the mark quite promptly with the establishment of the various committees. We have 14 committees treating with all the different elements that are in the mix to make sure that you do have a comprehensive, extremely successful games. So we have been meeting monthly, and in some cases twice monthly since then. And we are now at the home stretch. There are a number of very important pieces that needed to come together. The most important was the refurbishment of the track itself. And that was completed 3 weeks ago. That's the main track. And as you indicated, so far we have a series of meets, including the national championships and the national primary school meets. And pretty soon we'll have the largest local meet, which is the Intercol, utilizing that facility. The warm-up track is not yet completed. The base has been rebuilt in asphalt, and that requires to be rested for a few weeks before laying on the final track itself. That will be done in the next 2 weeks. And so the warm-up track will be completed 10 days before the start of the CARIFTA Games. But as I said, the main track is fully functional. And you must have seen the track. I suspect you had a good look at the national champs as well as the primary school meet. The other major challenge in hosting games of this nature is the accommodation. So far, this is turning out to be the largest ever CARIFTA Games. As I speak now, we have one country finalizing the total numbers. And if nothing changes, will be approximately 800 athletes and officials attending this particular games from 28 countries and affiliates around the region. Last two occasions when we hosted, we had the opportunity to utilize two of the large hotels in Grenada, one being primarily the Games Village, where over 90% of the athletes stayed there. That is no longer available to us because those properties have upgraded and they have aggressive marketing programs on. And as you're aware, tourism has rebounded in the Caribbean, across the Caribbean. And so those hotels are filled. So on this occasion, we have no choice but to house our athletes in 15 different properties. That poses some logistical challenges to maintain equitable standards in terms of the provision of meals, the logistics, the transportation. All those things have been worked out and have to be managed very carefully to ensure we have a seamless, equitable experience of all the various teams. So this is going to be different from the past, where the majority of the athletes were housed at one games village. So that has been the next major challenge and will necessitate uh, good logistics management to ensure that we have seamless movement to and from the facility to the various locations, as well as consistency in the meals, because some of the facilities do not offer meals, and so we have to engage caterers to treat with that. All the various committees are fully functional, and as I said, there are 14. We have committees dealing with technical, with protocol, with security, just about everything that is necessary to mount a games of this nature. And as I depart from this program, I'll be joining all of the team leads of the various committees for a continuing meeting. We meet almost every 2 or 3 days, ensuring that all the pieces are coming together. So I would say we definitely on the home stretch, and we are excited and looking forward to once again host what we hope will be another successful CARIFTA Games.
Indeed. And you mentioned the logistics in hosting. And by the way, I realized that Trinidad and Tobago already selected what 68 athletes, just 68 athletes. So that's 68 athletes, I think 18 officials. And in terms of proximity and location, Trinidad is our neighbor. Trinidad and Tobago, sorry, so they're our neighbors. So obviously, it's the Easter weekend. We expect hundreds of their supporters, family members, etc., to accompany the athletes. And then we not forgetting the likes of the Bahamas, who also have their charter flights, and Jamaica, for example, who normally travel with a large contingent of athletes, officials, and even their supporters. What is you spoke about the athletes and officials in terms of the accommodation. What is the nightmare you folks are having regarding the spectators now?
Well, before I go on to that, typically when the games are in the South Caribbean, they are generally larger because most of the countries are situated in the South Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean. And it's cheaper because the challenge people in the Eastern Caribbean and South have, when you have to go up to Jamaica, Turks, and all those places, given the transportation, invariably you have to pass through the US. That necessitates trying to get visas, and the cost doubles. And so it's cheaper for the majority of countries to attend a meet in the Southern or Eastern Caribbean. And so you're generally, from my observations over the years, you have more participation when it's in the South. And I just think on this occasion, we're seeing a lot of significant things. One of it is that a number of small countries are now fielding sizable teams. Like Bermuda has an excess of 40 athletes. St. Vincent has a good contingent. Guyana has the largest contingent I've seen. So a lot of countries are now exposing a lot more athletes. Athletics becoming more prominent in these countries. We have seen the balanced success of on the world scene right across the Caribbean, with the last two being Dominica and St. Lucia winning gold in the indoors. So athletics, from my perspective, is on a high in the Caribbean. So you have greater numbers. And in support of that, we have more and more spectators are joining their teams. So a lot of countries requested very early information on accommodation. As we know, generally the Bahamas is the largest fan base that travels. You have a specific charter as well as the additional seats on the team. On the plane that is carrying the team to Grenada also has supporters. So about 200 plus Bahamians are coming. Similarly with Jamaica, Eastern Caribbean, even Turks and Caicos is coming with an additional 30 supporters. So it's going to be quite a crowd. We have had to share with them Airbnbs, all the small guest houses and apartment buildings. And many of them have been having to hunt because, as you know, we are in a celebratory mood in Grenada, celebrating our 50 years of independence, and there are a series of events that have to take place over the year. And many of the Grenadians who came back for the independence celebrations are still around. So it is a bit competitive to find accommodation in Grenada now because of what is happening. So there are significant support base and traveling this year with the various teams from across the region.
Yeah, so understandably, and I think it also makes sense in terms of what you said regarding the when it's hosted in the Eastern Caribbean, whether it's Trinidad, Grenada, Barbados. Well, Barbados have been hosted for a while though, but in terms of the travel rules we have, and it certainly is something I believe that the CARICOM will be. I think I saw some things recently that, and you as an ambassador, Mr. Moses, as we could say, may want to discuss in the next few months when Grenada take over the chairmanship of CARICOM. However, as it relates to the games itself, Mr. Moses, yes, we talk about the numbers, probably 800 plus, etc., etc. In terms of budget, I know when the CARIFTA Games was launched last year, the chairperson spoke about the budget and the goodwill of some sponsors on board and probably an appeal to other sponsors on board to come on board. Here we are now, just probably a few weeks away from the CARIFTA Games. Are we on target with terms of budget? Or are we, in a deficit shortfall? I mean, what can you tell us regarding the budget for the CARIFTA Games?
Well, the games of this nature, as you know, requires significant financial support. And as I
Certainly.
indicated to you, this is shaping up to be the largest ever. And the largest component of the budget of the hosting of the CARIFTA Games is the accommodation. Fortunately, I think we have done fairly well this year. As you know, we have considerable support from the government, and that's a requirement. Government have to indicate the support which is required in the bidding stages and influences whether a particular country gets the opportunity to do so. So we have considerable support from government, not only in ensuring that the facility is upgraded to the highest standard, but in terms of operating costs, yes, we have had some support there. But we have just over 20 significant sponsors. We have the National Lottery Authority, we have the Grenada Board of Tourism, we have NACAC, we have Puma, we have Digicel, we have Panam Sports, we have the Caribbean Association of Olympic Committees, CANOC. Locally, we have Blue Bubbles, we have Grenlec, Glenelg, the Grenville Cooperative Credit Union, the breweries, Republic Bank, you have Mondo, you have UCS, and a number of other small sponsors. So I think we have done reasonably well. There's always, we'd always welcome more, but I think we are looking forward to at minimum break even on this occasion, and we have advertised significantly, and with the public support, I'm quite positive that we'll once again have from a financial point of view, a successful CARIFTA Games.
All right. Before I get Rudian on, if I can just pick your brain, Mr. Moses, because you have been involved in sports administration for so many years. If you are to make a decision or give an advice regarding accommodation, especially for the small islands like Grenada, well, particularly St. Vincent, because St. Lucia, I think, has a fairly okay in terms of room stocks. But if you have to give an advice, let's say an island like Grenada regarding room stocks and hosting of these mega events like CARIFTA Games, probably football, all these sort of things. How would you what would you suggest in terms of the challenge regarding accommodation? Do you think we should have a specific facility that can subsidize the costs of these sort of events in terms of accommodation? Do you think we have the traffic that can, that can subsidize that sort of process? Or do you think we still have to use the traditional hotels year after year? And because sometimes that's the main challenge in hosting these events, the cost of accommodation alone will scare you. What would you suggest, Mr. Moses?
Well, that's a difficult question. I think, first of all, if you're thinking in terms of hosting a CARIFTA Games, you must have the stadium facility. That's fundamental, which is a modern, certified, upgraded track with a fair amount of accommodation for the athletes and the supporting public. That's the base. The second most important thing will have to be the accommodation. For games of this magnitude, given the fact that it's a junior games, you generally will be sharing rooms for athletes, and it all depends on the size of the room. On average, 2 athletes per room, but that can go up to 3, bearing in mind that you have to separate females from males, and you also have to have accommodation for the officials. So when you look at that mix, you're talking on average, you're going to need somewhere in the vicinity of 400 rooms to host a successful CARIFTA Games. That does not necessarily have to be located in one particular hotel or 2 large hotels, as you see what we're doing this year. So it could spread around a series of small hotels, guest houses, apartment buildings. The challenge that poses is that the logistics have to be managed very effectively, right? Collection and ensuring the athletes get there on time, back and forth, ensuring that the meals are ready on time. More importantly, that the meals are consistent and is the standard and quality that is required to ensure that our athletes and officials are properly, nutritiously fed. These are the primary challenges. So for small islands, like I said, you have to have the accommodation by the facilities, the hospitality, and the logistics seamlessly managed, and all the various supporting things that are required, security, the range of different things. So it is possible if those basic things are in place. Certainly, it's going to cost some money. Any event of this size will necessitate, you know, um, it's not feasible that even a large country could just have one facility sitting and lying there just to support sporting events. So I think it has to be a public stroke private sector model where all the accommodation has to be private sector because they cannot survive on one periodic event once a year or every 2 years. So it has to be a hospitality driven activity focusing on tourism, of course, and you piggyback on the existence of that within your society.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just hoping that I was just brainstorming some ideas because I think it's a lot when you look at the budget for these for accommodating for these events, and probably something that can be used and subsidized in other areas. So if it's not netball or football or cricket or track and field, then it goes to the but just that during that period of time you can
Yeah.
just block it off for the event. Yeah.
But a lot has changed. It's not when in 1972 when CARIFTA started, where you stayed in schools.
Right.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
and people are prepared to sleep on mattresses
The match.
anywhere. It has
Yeah. Yeah.
become sophisticated,
Yeah.
and depending on where you come from, you have different expectations. And I submit to you that if any of the accommodations is below the standards, acceptable standards of some countries, the problems you are going to have. So it has evolved. So people are no longer going to get satisfied with, hey, this is a camaraderie, this is junior games, and, we'll work with what you offer. No,
But yeah, and something like I
that's in
see
the past.
even the Windward Island secondary school games have now evolved from schools to hotels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rudian?
Certainly, sir. It is truly a pleasure having you on. I know I'm listening to you, and you bring me back to a couple of things that changed, especially dealing with hotels. Because now in our side here, when we're hosting games and we have to leave the province, so leave town, we're only allowed to put two in a room now because of COVID. So that even coming in and make a change too, that we cannot put the four in, the cost is there. A few questions. In terms of the date, I know it's there. Not we can do now. The date is that. Does the date make a difference in terms of looking at? It is a long weekend. The cost can be a lot more. Is it wise to say let the date have changed from the weekend of Easter weekend to another date because of that cost? The people will come. The support will always be there. That wouldn't change. But because it's a long weekend, hotels are booked. Because it's Easter weekend, does that make a difference in terms of changing the date, in terms of the cost for flights and hotels?
Well, that has been a big debate. Easter weekend, as you know, is bang in the middle of the tourist season. And there have been arguments that we should move that to the off season. That is a difficult thing to do. Some people argue it's also in the middle of preparation for students going into the exams, and be much better if we can have it during the summer. That you can never get it right. Different countries have different celebrations. Like in Grenada case, for instance, in St. Lucia, St. Vincent. Once you get into June, July, August, there are carnivals. So I don't know that you could find a much better period that will accommodate and suit everybody. There are always challenges. Um, I am one who is prepared to examine. Nothing is casting stone. Change I embrace and welcome when it's better, but it is going to be very difficult to do. But who knows? It can change. Then of course you have to look at the calendar of events, both from a school point of view, opportunities for scholarships when you enter. uh, you know, you got to get that sequence right. You got to get the mesh and synchronize with the other events within that World Athletic calendar itself. So it's a number of things that you have to pay attention to.
Oh no, and certainly. And now another question concerning the numbers. You see a lot of countries that bringing in a lot of numbers now than we have seen before. A lot of more athletes is coming in. Is it a wise idea to move into character having a standard to get into the event than the country making their own standard?
I don't think so. I think an objective look at the scenario, you would know whether your athlete is competitive or not based on the standards of the previous year, based of what is happening from island to island. In addition to that, you remember this is one of the preeminent development games across in the world. And if you're going to be giving young athletes opportunities with varying qualities from country to country, you have to see the games from the perspective of exposure. So, in many countries, you have a local standard that you expect your athlete to aspire to and to meet to qualify to go to the games. But it also is utilized for exposing young athletes so they can see what the competition is like. They can get the feel of regional competition at that early level that can inspire and motivate them to go on. So if I'm going to be attending CARIFTA for the first time and I get a feel of what is happening, see what is happening, I'll make sure that when I go back, I'm much better prepared, because of what I've learned, the experiences. So it's a combination of things. And I think maybe based on numbers and the challenge of hosting these games, we may have to move to that at some point in the future. But I think the method that is being utilized now is working. And let us see how it evolves from there, bearing in mind the different things I mentioned.
And most definitely, one more question, and then you talk about you have 15 different locations for to hosting the athletes and different countries. Um, do you have a security detail that support them getting to and forth from the
Certainly,
from this
certainly.
track?
Like I
Okay.
said, we have 14 different committees. I could outline them for you. We have accommodation, we have accreditation, we have a committee treating with ceremonies, cultural experience, finance, legal committee, liaison committee, media marketing, medical anti-doping committees, operations, protocol, security. We have service ambassadors, transportation. So everything is covered, and security is certainly a core one.
And I assume following this presentation here, the meeting you're going to is an LOC meeting that will get probably look at updating and fine tuning some of the things leading on to the CARIFTA Games, Mr. Moses.
Certainly, definitely, and of course, the administration of the games requires the collaboration and support of all teams. And all the
Mhm.
things that you have to constantly drill is as much information coming to us before.
Right.
So a lot of the administrative work is done. So when a team should arrive, all the registration, everything already processed, just a question of delivery, you know. And to the extent to which you get that support, it enhances your ability to be effective and efficient. So you can focus on other things. And so it's constant. And as you get to the final event, it becomes more intense, you know.
Yeah, that's a key thing. Yeah, and the closer you get, there's some nervousness. But as you said, it's not the first, it's not the second, it's the third time Grenada will be hosting it, and I assume every time hosting it from 2000 to 2016 now to 2024, there's a learning curve. There's things that folks will learn and you will want to improve on and things like that. But I guess as much we always hear at the end of it the experience about the experience, a wonderful experience for not just the athletes, the officials, but also the spectators as well. Mr. Moses?
And that's what makes Grenada unique. Based on the two occasions, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and people always look forward to coming to Grenada. So we hope to continue to exceed the expectations.
Okay, let's look at the I know on the technical side, we don't have someone who's technical on the interview now, but when can we have or known of the Grenada team for the Carifta Games?
That that has been chosen. It will be fine tuned, and there's always an opportunity to make some changes. Sometimes you have athletes getting injured, and you have to, you know, um, add. But given the fact that the main facility has been late, the final choice, although a team has been chosen, I would say will be done immediately after the intercall.
The Intercol.
But
Yeah.
the team has been chosen, but be tweaked after the intercall. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with as hosting, you have the advantage of doing
In
such
addition to
because
the logistics of getting some of our athletes who are out there,
right,
you know,
and
we had 5 athletes who I think definitely can make the team. Just went out recently to start college, so in a negotiating process to get them back, that's always a challenge, getting the
yeah,
school to release.
to get
So
to release
barring
them.
those little nitty gritties, yeah.
In terms of sales of tickets to the general public in particular, what can you say? I mean, are we?
Well,
It's looking encouraging. Do you think
as you're
there's the
aware,
excitement?
immediately as ticket went on sales, the regional supporters were blocking, large groupings. So, for instance, within a few days, the finish line tickets were all exhausted. So, the main stand, uh, most of the seats are gone. You only have seats are in the section that you're familiar with, say by the long jump area on the first day. The other days are a little behind. So there are opportunities still to get in the main stand for season tickets. I would say pretty soon that will be fully sold out. And so late patrons will have to settle for the B stand and the bleachers, you know. So the ticket sales proceeding very well.
That's good. And in terms of, you have any breakdown in terms of how it's even going for? I mean, I know, and we said so, that when the tickets go on sale, the folks from the Bahamas and Jamaica and those other will hog the system. What's about in terms of the demographics? Are we seeing a lot of locals being able to access
I
tickets?
do not have that information, but
Mhm.
we publicly, when we launch, we urge our local people to access quickly because this is what is going to happen. All the visitors who are coming in are going to move very quickly. So if you desire choice seats, to move early, and we kept reiterating that. So I am in no position to tell you about the mix at this point in time.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will be disappointed, but I recall the urge for Grenadians to pick up their tickets very early because that's how it is. There's nothing that could be done, but because wherever you go, that's how it will be. There will be folks who will be, you know, gravitating towards, getting their tickets as early as possible. And not just in the Caribbean. We have a lot of folks who I know are flying out of South Florida and the Eastern Bloc, the New York, New Jersey area, even Pennsylvania, who are flying into Grenada for the CARIFTA Games. So, Mr. Moses, as we're looking towards the next probably 3 weeks in particular, I should say, you can safely say that we on target to host a very successful CARIFTA Games 2024.
Certainly. There always a lot to do. We're not leaving any stone unturned. This afternoon, there'll be an entire walk around by all the relevant people, understanding the lay of the stadium, um, going through, practical, and that is going to continue over the ensuing days with the various committees, the various groups of supporters and people with various responsibilities. So we are leaving no stone unturned because on every occasion they're going to meet some new people who need to, to learn. So that process, like I say, is starting this afternoon. That is on site now. Getting familiar with the various sections of the stadium. How do you move from one place to the other? Where the various offices going to be located? Where is medical? All those logistical details. Getting
Um,
familiar.
right. So we have so this is from Trishana Magwan, who says that I'm looking forward to it. Visited as a media liaison for the Reggae Girls, and such a lovely country. And Natalie is saying only Saturday and Sunday they have for the main stand. I went to get, and that's what they had aside from the bleachers and the secondary stand. So just an update from someone who said they went to get some tickets only Saturday and Sunday for the main stand. So again, if you really want to be part of the action for the CARIFTA Games and you
Have
don't,
to move quickly. Yeah.
yeah, and you don't have your tickets, you have to move quickly. And this could be the turning point because I assume with the Intercol fever coming up this week, well, in the next few days, then there'll be that urge, for the excitement to continue with the excitement, I should say, into CARIFTA Games. And then you may be thinking about having a ticket and it may be too late. So now probably the best time for you to get your
And of
tickets.
course, we working with Sportsmax. They have the broadcast rights.
Mhm.
So it will be broadcast around the region and around the world. So,
Right. Yeah. So, folks, again, an appeal. If you really want to be part of the CARIFTA Games 2024, it's an opportunity for you to get your tickets. Tickets are available at GoToFet. I know online, as I said. But are there any
um,
physical outlets?
yes, there are some other outlets. Unfortunately, I can't tell you off my head because we're still trying to ensure, based on requests, that while it's primarily online, we try to have the delivery at different places, so you can go to different outlets in the various parishes.
Mhm.
So,
And
you know,
do you know if there was a focus on getting the schools to have their students? I know it's a holiday period to have their students participate in the CARIFTA Games.
uh, typically, that's what we do. There's some challenges with that, having to manage it, where in the past, where tickets were allocated to schools, and that has been abused, where adults, you know, were accessing through the kids. So the team is that's responsible for that. I cannot comment on the arrangement, but only recently, because there being a call to have a system that allows schools to do that, bearing in mind like the experience I just outlined. I have not had the report as to what is the final outcome on that at this point in time.
Okay, so Natalie said
We
that
have to be very
optical.
careful, but
Yeah,
certainly bearing in mind the need for things like that. Yeah.
yeah. Natalie just commented that optical, Grenadian Optical has tickets as well,
Yeah,
and
well, that has been advertised very early. Yes.
yeah. So normally, apart from I guess and what you are trying to ascertain, other than go to FET and Grenadian Optical, where are the other tickets available? Clef Deputy is saying, notice in the past, both for Intercol and CARIFTA Games, patrons with small children tend to think they're entitled to seats not paid for, something to look at. And
Well,
me,
we have managed in the past, but you do have challenges. One, how do you determine who's a kid? Without an ID, and you would have some persons trying to pose as kids. So bearing in mind all those challenges, then athletics is a family event from the Grenada perspective, and the pricing posed a challenge with us this year because when we have our local events, we try to have a family package, a family of five. But that becomes very difficult when you have international games like this, where the cost is significant and a seat is a seat. So
Yeah.
we have had to fall back on a seat is a seat, you know. So what will happen for family? You may have to have your kids go or join your kids in the B stand or the bleachers if finance is a challenge, you know. But these are some of the idiosyncrasies that's peculiar to the games of this nature when you're trying to accommodate everybody. Because, like I said, traditionally, athletics in Grenada is a family-oriented thing.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
And we do
And
have, families coming out, which we desire and would like to.
yeah.
Yeah.
The next comment is from Lincoln Toro Deputy, the brother of Cleve, and also a good friend of Rudian and Canadian like himself. Rudian, you wouldn't like this one though. Everybody should get their tickets early for Intercol to enjoy another GDSS championship. Rudian can join Bass. He's speaking about myself, Aaron, Moses, and and be in the GBSS celebration. He's always there for
Yeah.
touring.
He need to know Magdala. He need to know Magdala College blood running me. So
It takes Toro to derail this thing, you know what I mean? And Haron is saying, comparing to the last CARIFTA Games held in Grenada in 2016, what can we expect from the 2024 iteration of the game? 2016 to 2024, Mr. Moses?
Well, like I said, it's bigger than any other games. We are going to try to do our best in terms of what makes Grenada unique is our level of hospitality, and that depends on all Grenada, um, demonstrating who we are. We are striving to have a very efficient games. I did allude to the fact that we have a cultural experience committee, so we're going to try to spice it up. We will have, for instance, in the car park, cultural activities going on during the lunch period. We will have booths with offering Grenadian cuisine and other things. So, try to ensure there's a balanced Grenadian experience and it's not only a focus on the athletics. So that is why we branded a total Grenadian experience.
All right.
just off your head, just off your um, um pick your brain for a second. How many athletes and coaches will be selected for the Grenada team?
I Like I said, that has been done, but I don't want to give you the wrong information. I prefer not to at this point in time. But we putting our best foot forward. As you know, it's difficult to sustain, and sometimes you have a better team than you normally have. But we try to put our best foot forward. Let's leave it at that. Um, I haven't mentioned this, of course. It's this game is very important for us. That's why we bid and put in our bid. As you know, this year we are celebrating 100 years. The Grenada Athletic Association. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, any association anywhere in the world in the Grenadian context. So our legacy of athletics is very deep. Similar to I understand the Football Association is also celebrating 100 years.
Yeah.
So this is a significant milestone to us, and so we felt that twinning with the fact that we're celebrating 50 years of independence, that we should have gone for hosting the games this year. So it's a very important event in the annals of athletics development in Grenada. And like I said, we are endeavoring to ensure it is one of the best ever.
Okay. And
Certainly.
before you run off, Mr. Moses, what would you say? What legacy does Grenada hope to leave for hosting the CARIFTA Games, particularly in terms of inspiring future generations of athletes and fostering, regional cooperation and integration?
Well, a number of things. to repeat, a fantastic Grenadian experience, but most importantly, a high quality uh, uh, character games where you're looking at the best future talent available in the region. And from a Grenadian perspective, this event should serve to inspire and motivate our young people. As you know, athletics in Grenada starts at kindergarten. Every school in Grenada, every kindergarten school have an athletic event. And so holding that here and exposing that to our young people, seeing the best talent, seeing talent that we know is going to go on and win gold medals at Olympics and World Championships, you know, at this early stages, I think this is an experience that we need to maximize. All our young people, all our parents, everybody should ensure that their kids are exposed to this experience, seeing it in Grenada, and hopefully this event will inspire them to begin to see athletics as a very important part of the holistic development, to see it as opportunities for professions, not only for winning gold medals and becoming professional athletes, but the opportunities for training, growth, development, seeing the various elements of athletics that can offer future occupations, the coaching, the physiotherapy, and all the various pieces that are required to come together to ensure that we have professional athletes. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity that all Grenada need to maximize, and hopefully it will really contribute to a holistic development of our young people going forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Moses. And I know you have to run off because you have an engagement at the top of the hour. And I thank you for spending the extra, 4 minutes with us. Um, and I wish you well. And thank you also for accepting the invitation on behalf of the LOC to speak to us, Mr. Moses.
My pleasure.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay. All the best.
All the best. Yeah. So, folks, Mr. Aaron Moses, the deputy chairman of the Local Organizing Committee of the CARIFTA Games 2024. Yes, and he is heading off to the, I think LOC has a meeting, and he's heading off to that now so that he can, be part of the process, I should say, as they continue preparations for hosting CARIFTA Games 2024. Rudian I know a tourist saying Aaron probably must be a Maguire House guy. Okay. Rudian, so yes, so CARIFTA Games upon us, and
certainly.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And it appears from Mr. Moses, who has had a wealth of experience in terms of administration, not just, by the way, not just the Grenada Athletic Association, but also from the CARIFTA Games on the LOC of 2000 and then 2016. So he has a wealth of experience being there. Yeah, it appears that things are on stream based on his iterations.
Most definitely. And I think right after these games, we should try and get somebody back on to get the overall point of view of how the games is, what was lacking, what was missed, what can we do, better.
Probably the chairman may decide to be part of the process. Well, folks, as you know, we just passed the National Primary School Athletics Championship, and prior to that, we had the athletics, the national champs, as we call it, National Athletics Championship. And it was the first two events on the newly laid track, and from all indications, it appears that in terms of the track itself, all seems to be well. Right? All seems to be well, encouraging times and, performances and things like that. And if what we see from the national champs and then the primary school athletics championships. Therefore, Intercol should be a bumper. By the way, let's congratulate all the athletes who participated in the national champs as well as the primary school, and congratulations to the St. Andrew G2 branch for winning the championships by a huge margin. By the way, I was promised some information regarding the scores and how they were able to tally the score. By the way, it's a new system they have used this year, right? It's a new system. So it's such that, someone was explaining to me that if a school finishes second and one finishes third, their points should not be more than the school that finished first. Oh, let's say in that case, let's say the parish, right? So if, let's say, St. Andrew finished first and St. Patrick and St. Mark second and third respectively, their scores should not be more than that of St. Andrew who finished first. It's a new system they're using. I am the person who told me, who explained it to me and promised to send me the document. They have some concerns, and I say, I want to see it before I can, share those concerns. My only hope is that it's not something they will use for Intercol, right? Because
no, definitely.
I'm saying that to say that I think there was a lot of confusion in it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of the coaches and even the athletes themselves understood, right? It's something where you have to put it into a system and let them, gradually get accustomed to it. Listen, I'm not against new system, and certainly there probably merits why they're using it, right? But if you believe that putting it in on the spur of can create confusion and creates confusion itself, then you have to kind of second guess those things, And my hope is that if they do for Intercol, then the schools and the athletes probably should have known that before, and they should be well aware of what to expect, right? In terms of that. That's just my answer.
It is right away sounds confusion right away. Because like I said, you respectively just said 3 teams, which is 3 separate points going to 3 separate places. So why I understand if you say that St. Patrick's coming second and third, points together give more than the first place. I understand that respectfully, but the fact that you're saying that second and third that go into 2 different teams cannot be more than the first place really get that big margin already. So second and third is not going in the same school. It's going to different parishes, put it this way. So that on a whole don't make logic sense to me, and probably to many others. And I also found out that the relay point was also way more than the regular points from the team. The relay point was probably up to about either 17 points or 18 points. So it was it's very confusing, and they might explain it that makes sense. But if you look at, as we want to move on a international level, international point system, NCAA point system, it's just 10, 8, and it trickle down. And in NCAA, one school could win first, second, and third. Right there, they have 20-something points. That's all it is. And then you go many places, many countries, the European countries, and many other places. That's exactly how it is. So, I know it's a trick system. They have the explanation. Hopefully they can explain it to us. We didn't, last week program, we didn't really like the match pass, but we accepted because it was explained to us, so definitely if it is explained to us in a way where we said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Certainly it don't make sense, but it's a hard one to kind of understand. Because a team that because you're having 2 now, a team that comes second and third and here and there, or first and third or something. If you're saying that a team that can only come second should not win a championship, because everybody, the same team wouldn't come first every time. But if a team comes in second and third constantly, they could also win a championship. So you're trying to, the idea is to not only the first place team should win, anybody should be able to win, even if they come second or third. Because the first place team, St. Andrews, may not win everything or get every point from every event, but other parishes might be able to do it. So if you're setting it up for only the first place team that have the opportunity to win, then I understand. But it should be open up for everybody at the same time.
As Roger is saying, if it's not broken, why fix it? Is the old system broken? Roger, I wish I could answer that. Clever saying, how about bonus points coming into the meets for smaller parishes with less of a pool to draft from in terms of participation? And we say that because when you look at St. George, St. Andrew in particular, in terms of the number of schools and the pool, to compare that of probably Carriacou and PD Martinique and St. Mark's.
St. Mark's especially, and St. George.
Well, St. Mark in particular, because I think they maybe have
they only have two schools,
primary schools to draw from. So it's kind of. I listened to the president of the Grenada Union of Teachers trying to give some sort of clarification. I'm not so sure he is. He understood what the person was asking him per se regarding that, because he went off to something else. But when you look at it, it's certainly it's sort of unfair to some of the other parishes because they don't have that pool, compared to the bigger parishes.
The bigger parishes and so forth. Yeah. And certainly, and like I said, it's a very deep and hard debate, because when you say that, okay, let's make St. George's east and west and divide those schools east and west, so you have two different branches from St. Andrews, two different branches from St. George's, then yes, you can say that, but then it also will become a challenge, if we're going to go to that way, but it could work. But because St. Andrews have 17 or 18 primary schools.
Yeah. So the thing about it is that now is the time to start looking at what is best. You see, most times they just wait until probably 2 weeks, a month,
3 weeks, a month before,
and then just start thinking about these things. And that's a problem we have here, and that's why I was suggesting to goodly principals last week that if we must move to the system where we may have almost a permanent secretariat, and when I say secretariat, not necessarily building or structure, but have a system in place that can look at organizing sports at the various secondary schools levels, I should say, and not just track and field, not just Intercol.
Yeah.
So it should be
branch come together. All the sporting under one branch, under one, not branch, but under one banner.
One structure, right?
Yeah, under one banner.
So if is this the secondary school games association, then so be it. But it should not just be track and field. It should be football. It should be cricket. It should be netball, basketball. All these disciplines should come on and organize under one, so that the planning process, it should not be 2 weeks before or 3 weeks or a month before, but almost a year long, because you have this committee that is in charge of organizing school sports, secondary school sports, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Sports, and the other stakeholders, meaning the associations, whether it's the Grenada Football Association, the Grenada Athletic Association, netball, etc., right? And I think that's the only way we can start this thing. Rudian, let's start the confusion. Since McDonald College starts to win, they start mess with the points, research it. Research is to the sale. And Toro is saying, let's go back to the old time way. Too much convolution, point scoring, too much attempt to make losers feel good and appease everyone and hurt no feelings. The prize to the one who earns it. Let that be the golden rule. I know it, Toro.
And I understand, and I totally understand what he's saying. Like, they should have one system that makes sense, and it shouldn't be. Like, you should invite you know, a lot of other stakeholders, a lot of the coaches or the schools in the parish, and have a discussion concerning that, because it's makes more sense for that. Because like I said, I that point system confused me. And even if they come and they put the logistic in front of me, and it seems like it makes sense, it still wouldn't make sense to me. Because I guess because I'm so accustomed to one thing, then I have to adapt to whatever they have there. But it's how it is.
So the next point I want to go on to is has to do with, and by the way, we have a couple more minutes we want to talk about. It has to do with one of the piece I wrote regarding the athletes running on the synthetic track at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium barefoot. And it's something we spoke about before. Even though there are some folks who didn't really read and understood what we were trying to convey, because we spoke about it on the program, but this is social media. People will just see something and they just believe that they must respond, and in some instances, sorry about that, but they continue to make a fool of themselves, I would say, because if they read and understood the context in which we were talking, and what I wrote about, they would understand. But here's what it is. Now, over the past few years, I know of individuals, and I didn't mention the name, sorry, in the post, but I can say it because these people, do it. So one is Cleve Depedine, and another is Mike McQuilkin. I can name others, but I'm just naming two for reference, easy reference. Over the years, they have made many contributions to assisting, students, athletes in Grenada in various forms. But let's look at the track and field in particular, in terms of sneakers, running shoes. Let's say running shoes, because it's not just spikes. I see a lot of people just dwelling on spikes. Running shoes. So it could be the spikes, or it could be sneakers, etc., etc. And they have been doing that sometimes, going unnoticed, except for them just mentioning it. You will not know, but they have done it. I have known Roger Brown, for example, who have made donations to tennis, for example, tennis net and rackets and all these sort of things. And these guys continue to do those things, right? Every now and again, they send things. Here is the problem. It's sometimes that I say it's a lack of appreciation, right? Because they don't have to do it. They're not called upon to do it, but they believe they can make a contribution in some way or the other. And I see is a lack of appreciation, because if it's managed properly, for example, the shoes, you can tell me that the school receiving those shoes or sneakers, whatever it is like that, so running shoes, whatever, can have them in such a way that they can pass it on to other students, because it's only it's not something they use daily. It's just a run, So they go and run and whatever it is, and the school manages it. So they have a stock of shoes and sizes, whatever. So depending on who needs, they can give them. But it's very troubling and sad to see. And we saw it where some of the athletes themselves were very uncomfortable because the track was very hot.
Very hot. It's brand new and it's very hot.
New, hot, and you can see how they were basically, walking after the race and things like that. So, and I think, what should be done is that schools should have their priorities right. And I noticed that some appeals were made within the last week. And I don't know how they intend for that to happen, this miracle to happen, that a week before the National Primary School Athletics Championships, there were people who were making an appeal to people in the diaspora to assist and to do this and to do that. Come on, listen, your priorities have to be right. That National Primary School meet or your school meet is on a particular day or date. Please organize, make your appeal way in advance, because there is no way the likes of the Cleve Depedine and Mike McQuilkin and others will just drop what they're doing and run to a store and pick up and see how they can FedEx or whatever into Grenada in a matter of days. Your priorities have to be right. And here the point I was making, we had no qualms, Rudian. In fact, we agreed after explanation by the principals regarding the March pass, right, that it's not affecting the athletics competition. And we say, okay, if that is the case, we have no problem with that. In fact, hey, listen, if it's entertainment, no problem, right? But it must not be at the expense of the talents of these track and field athletes, okay? So you are spending, whether it's parents or whoever, hundreds of dollars for these fancy costumes and things. Hey, no problem with that. But you can't spend a few bucks to get the shoes and things like that. So come on, man. I mean,
Missing our priority. It becomes a priority and where our priority lies.
The priority, that's the point I'm trying to make. I have no problem. I have no problem with you having the best fancy parade and what have you and thing. But it must not be at the expense of these children who have to run barefoot, right?
Yeah.
And trust me, most of the primary school athletes, they're running on the grass track. So there's some level of comfort for them running on the grass track barefoot.
Compared to the track, yeah.
When it comes to the stadium, is a different thing. Mm-hmm. So you have to get them into, and as Clev was saying, we didn't like going to school with bag of books, but it was necessary. It was necessary. We didn't want to go to school with this big bag of books and things like that. So, but it became necessary. Likewise, the athletes may not want to run with it, but it becomes necessary if they have to on the track, and it's good for their health as well. Yeah. The doctors and things will tell you that running on these surface after a while can injure them, their ankle, the
bottom of the feet alone.
And all these sort of things. It might be comfortable for now.
For now, but the future.
For the future. So all these things are things that we need to take into consideration. And
Michael, let me. One of the things that I've done, Michael, out here, there were a few incidents in our school system, and I had a meeting, and I make it clear to them that if we in a competition, especially when we're in a championship, and if it's raining, it's mandatory for the kids to wear spikes, because we have seen injury. Now I had an injury, and this person was actually wearing a spikes, with a twist the knee that they could not move from the sun until the ambulance get there, and it took the ambulance 1 hour to get there. 1 hour to get there. So this child was sitting there until then because she could not move, and we couldn't really move her because that's the nature of it. So it's important for that. And we see the the under 7. And my take on that was, it doesn't have to be spikes. Sometimes it's really hard to get spikes for the young kids to that age, but make it across the border. All of them have running shoes on. If they have a running shoes on, it doesn't have to be a spikes. It's challenging someone to get a small size spikes for those kids, but let them all have a running shoes on and not barefooted. I can speak of McDonald College, who did donate and borrow borrow the St. Patrick's team spikes. They did borrow them spikes. However, they didn't get to use some of them because the kids never really compete in it. They never used it. So it was a challenge for them, but they did. In the near future, we're hoping that they can get it a little bit earlier so the kids can get some practice on it. Most of the schools in the outer parish never get a chance to go to the stadium and do a practice due to, the stadium was just putting down and due to other events that was happening. So they never get a chance to even go down there for one day and if you get a practice. I was speaking to the teacher in charge, Mr. Jeffrey from St. Patrick, and he said, when the kids walk into the stadium, they were nervous. They was afraid because it's huge now. It's big. Never seen it before. So if they had the opportunity to go there 2-3 days prior to, or not even prior to, but 2-3 days going to the stadium, that fear wouldn't be there anymore. So there's a lot of little things that I think that they have to really look into. And running shoes doesn't have to be spikes, but at least some sort of foot attire in those days, in these competitions, is very important. Very important.
And as Tor is saying, for that to work properly, running in spikes or sneakers must be on the curriculum of schools'
Yes.
PE program, which is a physical education program. If they don't practice in them, they won't be able to run in them on sports
Yeah.
day. And Roger says, schools are prepared to win by any means necessary. I'm told that the athlete chooses what is most comfortable to them to win. Until we have a policy position taken, que sera, sera, right?
So right, Roger. So right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And by the way, that's where the coaches, come in.
Comes in.
And the coaches have to understand, hey, listen, it's not about all as Roger is saying, not about all win, but what's about the development of the athlete? Because you can win now, and then a year or 2 years from now, we lose the athlete to injury, right?
Yeah.
So develop the athlete the proper way, and it's not so much what the athlete is comfortable with, but it's what is right for the athlete, okay?
Yeah.
Because they know that at some point in time, they will have to. You cannot, for example, develop an athlete, go into primary, secondary school, and possibly college, and then telling me, oh, back then it's only didn't run with sneakers and cannot run with sneakers.
Yeah.
That is certainly would be a no-no, right?
Yeah.
They'll have to run in sneakers or they have to run in spikes for the outdoor and things like that. So in colleges, they won't allow them to run that. So I can't understand the argument by some, I should say, who don't really, they're just looking at it, just in front of them and not looking at the future development of the athlete, what is right.
Yeah.
As we said, and as Clev was saying in a post, in a recent post, we didn't like going to school with books, but the books were necessary.
Books were necessary.
Yeah. So it's likewise the sneakers and the run in the spikes and things, they are necessary as an athlete to develop the whole the biomechanics and everything about it, and then the surface and all of that,
Yeah, Michael, I have another issue with the timing of the sport as well. Especially dealing with
when you say timing, you mean the timing system or the time the sports?
No, the time starts and end. We're starting and ending. We're starting and ending, and they definitely look on, maybe there's the gap. They should look at this system, because again, we are in the capital, and the farthest parish from the capital is St. Patrick's, because the CARIFTA team is really down in the city already, and that's St. Patrick's. And after talking with those who are in charge, I mean, they have to see to it that every single child get to the house when they drop them off. So that even that coach on itself say he get home minutes to 12 at night, because the sports finish 10 minutes to 8 at night, and then you're leaving from the city all the way. Yeah.
So go back to that. So let's look at the National Primary Schools Athletics Championship that just ended, right?
Yeah.
You were saying that, and that is what you're referring to, day one, right?
Day one finished at 10 minutes to 8 o'clock at night.
Primary school.
Primary school, yes. Day one.
And I think there was a late start, because I was looking at it and I remember the commentators
talking about a late start. There was a late start, yeah.
Right. Fill me in on day two.
And day two, it finished a little bit early, but again, you have these kids that go. And not only, and again, please, it's not only for the St. Patrick's, it goes for all the other parishes, that they have to get home. The kids have to wake up early again and be back down in the stadium. And then you're looking at starting about after 10, I think they start again. Day two was much better, because it was less events, because they have the presentation and so forth in the end, so it had to finish a little bit earlier. I think it probably finished maybe roughly around 5 o'clock or something like that, which is pretty reasonable, not bad. But they have to look at the timing, and I think because they have additional events that was never, not events, but like the 400 had a hits and finals, never had that before. 200s hits and finals, the 100 meters, especially on the 400 meters. So that takes a lot. Now you asking kids to run hits and finals, 400 basically in the same day, who never done it before in terms of a competition wise, and they have other events. Now the young man who win the overall, the Oliver young man from St. Patrick's, with 70 something points, he did the 100, the 200, the 400, the long jump, the javelin, the discus, and the shot put. the 4x1 and the 4x4. Now you have those athletes who is talented, because St. Andrews also had those young ones who talented, who is doing so much events. So we have to take into consideration certain things, like a 400 should just be a time finals, in my opinion.
Oh,
Because
especially with the athletes
running
doing
two
so many other
times.
things.
Yeah, running, like literally, I watching him running the 4x4 in the end, and he was done with.
Yeah.
In the coming to the end, he was literally done with. And yes, you can't look at just one athlete, but I'm saying there are several athletes who was in the same categories. And St. Mark's might have that one athlete that can do everything, because of a smaller school, and they could only avoid just the one kid doing so much, right? They have to look at that in consider. I just think the 400 at least should have just been a time finals. I think that was a bit too much for them. And I think that may kick up some timing, because you have to do double. So you have the under 13 have a 400, and the under 15 also had the 400. I think that also takes some time away from there. I think that they should look into that as well, and just restructure it a little bit. Because like I said, I run the 400, Michael. Sometimes when you run one 400, you're done for the day. You can't do nothing again for the rest of the day. And many 400-meter runners could tell you that they need like 5-6 hours to fully recover when they go there and do 100%. And that they could even ask Kirani, when you give 100% or 110%, you done for a few hours. I remember when the young man broke the record, the South African broke the world record, coming out on lane 8. He was done. He was done with for the day, because he ended up almost getting out, coming up the track on a stretcher, because he was literally done for that. So I'm just saying that it's for them to look into. It would be nice.
Right. So we have some comments that coming in. I want to read those comments there, and then we have two other things we want to touch on, having to do with the support for schools and clubs and making an appeal for the reintroduction of the private sector games. But let me take some of the comments here. Haran is saying, also sports development is behind of mine only until end of first term, second term at most schools, barring an athlete in a club already training. Sports development in school needs to be more proactive instead of being reactive. And that's the bottom line of what we have been talking about.
Yeah.
They need to be proactive in terms of that, and not, on the spur of the moment, a week before, 2 weeks before, you're seeing appeals for this and appeal for that and things like that. So no. That's a no. I think same as how that's Lane Paul is saying, I think same as how the children was trained to pass the batter, same way they should learn to run in spikes or run in a tire. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, if they're training you for batter passing, it's a process. Well then, yeah, good point.
Running the shoes.
Yeah. Clev is saying, I donated to McDonald College last year. I must say it was one of the schools that reached out to say thanks. My wife is not moving from her commitment to SAS. Oh, that's a problem in the house, Clev. She already wearing her SAS champion T24. Don't give them that right. We will stifle that enthusiasm, I'm sure. I'm certain about that. Clev.
Yes, we will.
That is like Clev, that is like living in a house with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a Republican and his wife is a Democrat. It's almost like that. Joanna Paul said, since we knew CARIFTA was scheduled for Grenada this year, we had to move up all the school meets, considering the stadium had to be worked on. The students had little recovery time, especially the St. David athletes.
Certainly, and so true. And that's what we talk about. There should have been a restructure in certain things because of that. A lot of things had to change.
How many schools did that? Was the GBSS and the Anglican High School?
Yeah, GBSS and Anglican High School. I think the rest of them stays the same process. Yeah.
So in the process and all that we spoke about, I think in going forward, we probably can have and folks, and it goes back to an appeal I think Mike McQuilkin has been making, and he has been making it time and time again. And we have even reached out to some schools probably 2 or 3 years ago. For example, the pen relays. Schools like the GBSS, Anglican High School, SAS, St. David's Catholic Secondary School, Wester Hall Secondary School, and I think McDonald College may have participated in the pen relays over a period of time, okay? I think the last school to participate would have been the Wester Hall Secondary School. 2 consecutive years they participated in the pen relays. But something like that we refer to, where schools took it upon themselves to organize and plan way in advance. Way in advance. For example, the West Hall Secondary School did that through the assistance of Mr. Kent Simon, for example, right? So they flew into New York, stayed in New York for a few days, got the opportunity, I'll be to a school, got the opportunity to do some training, some competition among some schools. Then they went down to Pennsylvania, to Philly, for the pen relays, right? I think it was one or two athletes from the Western Hall eventually got scholarships, etc., etc. But these are the sort of opportunities they have. But it has to be a school-driven initiative. The school must take it up. Most times they want the old boys and the old girls in the diaspora to do this and to do that and to do, the schools have to, come forward and say we are interested and here is what we want to do, here is what we can do, here is what we willing to do, here is what we can do. Because, for example, if the students have to get visas, the folks in the diaspora can't get the visas for them. The school has to do that. So there are certain things the schools would have to do. So that's why I'm saying it's a school-driven initiative. And I'm just using that as an example, right? Because most times they look upon the diaspora, everything, the folks in the diaspora, the old boys, the old girls. Yeah, listen, I think old boys and old girls, the alumni, they're always willing to assist.
Yeah.
But they can't just get up one morning and just say, hey, look, $300,000. You have to come forward and say what it is you need. You have to plan. Yeah. And if your plan, your need must not be a week or 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Probably now is the time for you to start planning what it is we can do to make our school sports a better school sports in 2025. How we can incorporate our old boys and old girls into the process to assist, and not a month or 2 weeks before that you believe that you can just call upon them or say that they should do this or they should do that.
I mean, Michael, last week I was nominated as the president for the past student of Grenada College of Toronto.
Congratulations.
And we
Toro,
really put in place.
Toro, are you hearing that, Toro?
Now we really put in place of exactly what we would like to support for next year already, that we want it to be out by September. And it's something that we really put in plan. It's just about making it happen now. Like I said, we really speak to Mr. Under. We say, this is what we would like to do. This is what we would like to donate with. And this is what we want to do for the students of Grenada College. And I really have it in plan. Like I said, we put it out there. I went to him and I asked him, what do you need? What is needed so that we can help? We can do the best way that we can. And I think mainly that's what it is. You have to do it in advance. You cannot wait a week before, like we keep saying, 2 weeks before. It's a challenge. A lot of these kids from the primary school will tell you that they get the spikes a week before from parents who coming from abroad. A week before they get it. We heard a comment of this a young man was saying he didn't want to wear the spike because he didn't know how to run it. He has it, but he didn't want to because he don't know how to. So those things have to happen, and then we cannot wait also for when track and field season coming around in January. We start preparing the kids. It has to be from since September. It has to be from some time before. You cannot just be on that season. And that's most of the time how we see it over the years. Season come around, kids, you have to have the programs. You have to have, and that's why it's important for the PE teachers or physical education teachers in our schools, and they can prepare them for every single sport, not only track and field, but not just wait for the season to come around. Every single sport, and it has to be done constantly.
All right. So as we get ready to wrap up, Clevis, where is Sissy? Well, I assume it's Sissy Charles, the young female athlete from Local College. I haven't heard about her since leaving Grenada on scholarship. Well, I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. I know Sissy was
I think she was here in Central Arizona.
She's now at she's at Texas A&M Commerce Athletics. Texas A&M Commerce Athletics, which is not. There's Texas A&M, and
there is Texas so she had a Division I school now. After 2 years.
Right. Yeah. So so that's where CC is. But she was here.
And I just thought also a post also for another athlete who also got a scholarship as well from Local College. I can't remember what school, but also got another recently happened.
Okay. Hold on. Let me go to Mike McQuilkin, who's saying, Mike, glad you mentioned, no, sorry, Edwin Sam, sorry. Mike, glad you mentioned pen relays. Someone reached out to me for assistance for a school to attend the relays this year and was not thrilled when I explained that this has to be planned a year ahead. As you mentioned, visas, traveling, come on, equipment, etc. Yes, folks, listen. Not even that. At this time, he says at this time, even entering the pen relays might be a bit challenging because you won't be able to enter. You have to do that well in advance, and you have to provide, especially if it's a school from overseas, you have to provide certain commitments in advance because they will not be able to give you your visas and all these things, and these are information you have to provide them.
You need to have that information. They need to give you
that information. So you need to register
for the visa.
So you need to register. You need to get that letter from them, etc.
And the acceptance letter.
Right, and all this other. So you have to plan in advance, and that's what I'm saying. So the Western Hall Secondary School did something like that, and it was well in advance. You have to please, and you cannot be upset. You definitely cannot be upset.
With the answer that you get.
Let me get you some jokes here now. GBSS alumni in Toronto is quite willing to assist McDonald's college guys. If that will help them win Intercol, GBSS is getting tired of winning. Mr. Andal, thank you. Mr. Andal should have been with us last week, but here he is now.
Last week, I know,
Thank you very much, McDonald College. We'd appreciate your help.
Most definitely.
You owe us something, you owe us something.
I think you need to come on.
I know you're a bit, and you were a bit, taken up, but at least, let us know what is happening.
Listen, it's not so late, we could still give him a 5 minutes if he come on, and let's throw something in for the Intercall,
because this is our last. Anyway, this is our last program before Intercall.
The last program,
We come on next weekend, God's willing. We should be reviewing Intercall, right?
And Michael, just before you go, I know we and it's something that we constantly saying that the support for the running shoes and the spike. It's not only that, equipments too. Some schools don't have javelin. Some schools don't have the shot put, the discus. So it's not only the shoes as well, right?
So so we did. That's the other thing I said we had to talk about the equipment to schools and clubs in particular, and again that's why we're saying that we will hope that schools take it seriously going forward, right, and look at the planning. So most schools would have had their school sports already, right? It's now Intercall championships. Following the Intercall, yes, we do have the break, but then going forward, there should be a planning process in stream, not just for track and field, because remember, a lot of the schools participate in football, for example, the McDonald College football, cricket, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And my thing is that, and I'm certain Mr. Andal, who is involved as the vice president of the Grenada Football Association, will probably look at that in that context too, where put your various coaches, your physical education officers together, bring them together, sit down and come up with a plan of how we will be tackling 2025, what our program would be like, when we will start training, what are the competitions we are likely to enter in, right? Football, basketball, netball, all these sort of things. What are the short lists of names we have already that can actually start training, and we can't wait until 2 weeks before to start training. What would we need in terms of equipment? Someone said, Chris Hutchinson said meals, for example. All these things. Come up with a budget. What would be the budget for McDonald College or GBSS or PBC for their football team? Let the cricket team come up with a budget because they need equipment, they need bats, or all these. And you can plan ahead. So for your school sports budget for 2025, it will be probably close to $25,000, for example. So therefore, in discussion with your Toronto alumni, with your New York alumni, you can share the information with them. And they can say, here, we can give you some assistance. We can provide probably, something $2,500 or, or $3,000 towards that, these sort of, or we can probably provide you with some equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what I'm saying. The planning process has to be way in advance. And as Haran was saying, we have to be proactive and not reactive. Right? So going forward, I think that should be, we just throwing out, things.
Some ideas.
That should be the way forward for those schools in terms of, especially if you want to partner with your alumni and other stakeholders. And by the way, there's no problem why schools should not be putting forward early in advance sponsorship packages, for example, right? Trying to get sponsors on board, using probably even having the, I recall when I was president of the GBSS alumni in New York, we funded for a few years the school feeding program, the school meal program, right? So we were providing funds for that. And things like that. So and these
also
are
even individual athletes, because like I said, as we know the struggle. Yes, we struggle out here as well, but we're in a better position. There's a struggle back home. Not everybody that not every family that can afford. There is a struggle too as well. So if we could look into that as well. If we say we love the sport and we love our Grenadians, young as well as old, that also should be something that also come in place as well. Looking at GBSS have 2 kids that say, they need sponsor. And this is what they need. They might need a breakfast program. How can we do that? Do we do it through the school, or do we do it through the parents? Do we to put a barrel together and so that they have food stuff that could last them for the next 6 months or the next year or something like that, or sending money or work with a grocery store that they can go in there every month and pick up $100 worth of stuff. Like, it's just something like that. Certainly could also be looked into, but it's something that they can wait on the last. Is something that right after the school year, before the teachers probably head out, they should sit down in the school, have a meeting, and try to budget themselves, or just before school come back in session, have a meeting, see what they budgeted, put it out there from September, or put it out there from August, put it out there from June, July, those times, and then that way people can do that. And they probably are schools that do it. They probably are.
Joanna Paul is saying, I think we have a challenge with sports photography here. We cannot rely on timely updates. This should always be included in every meet. When will we start to include memorabilia for Intercol? Nothing to remember the previous games. Yeah, point taken. And our final thing has to do with the reintroduction of the private sector games. Now, many years ago, in fact, it was during the period of the PRG 79 to 83, they started this private sector games, right? I recall that vividly. And then outside of that, I think the only sporting disciplines that really continue in the private sector game was the intersector netball, intersector football, and intersector cricket, right? But there has been an appeal and a call for the reintroduction of the private sector games that includes track and field, for example. Why? It was and I think it came in light of the commentary I had regarding the TAMCC, right? The sports program for the TAMCC. Oh gosh, we had to have a special program just to talk about TAMCC and the sports program. But when the students or student athletes, as we say, leave the secondary school and go on to TAMCC, there is a 99% chance of them falling by the wayside in terms of sports. If they're not involved in a club, and even if they're involved in a club, all they could do most likely is train.
Challenge for them.
That's what. They could just do it for fitness, as they say, because there's nothing there for them except probably for the national champs and probably with some tied games, right? But the private sector games, and particularly as it relates to athletics, where we'll see adults, or those over the age of 20 in particular, yeah, there's an opportunity for them to compete, right? Because some of them still, have something in them. Some of them can still represent Grenada, because we have the notion that once you pass 20, that's the end. You cannot represent
Of your
Grenada
career.
of your career. And I think it's giving them an opportunity, right, for them to showcase and continue their talents, continue their training, etc., etc. So I think it's an opportunity for the Grenada Chamber of Industry and Commerce to look at, because they were the ones who really involved in the intersector sporting events, can look into the reintroduction. And I might quiz my good friend George Goatee Robinson and Podgy Cherubin to see if it's something they can look into to get something going for 2025. The reintroduction of the private sector games in Grenada, particularly with athletics. Rudian, unless you have something to say outside of hold on, outside of saying that McDonald College will win.
I have to. I believe that
if it's one thing, I don't next program will be a very interesting program, because I don't want no guess. We just talking Intercol, right? No guess. I don't think we need a guess. We're just talking Intercol.
But just before you go there, Michael, next week I am at the Canadian Championship indoors. So I certainly will come on. I don't think I have anything coming at that time, but I will be at the Canadian Championship. But we could talk, like I said, but that's where I'll be at the Canadian Championship in Montreal for next week. So
Tora, I hope you're taking note. You see your boy checking out already? after saying that it's McDonald College here, he is already saying that he think he might be blah blah blah.
No. I'll definitely come on. I don't think with the time I have any based on the schedule, I don't have nobody on. I can find a little spot there and then come in and.
But wouldn't you agree with me that it's one year where the Intercol Championships is widely open?
It is widely open. It's widely open, and I'm looking. You know what I'm really looking forward to? Being a 400-meter runner. The young man from is it SAS or Grenada, one of the schools out there in St. Andrews. Phenomenal 400-meter runner. I am really looking forward to see that young man. I believe, I seen him at the national champs. He won about a 47 point, I believe. And I really believe that, he have chance to definitely bring a goal for Grenada at the CARIFTA Games. But I'm really looking forward to see this young man run. In spite of all the other events, I'm really looking forward to see that young man.
Yeah, the interesting thing. Last year Intercol, Kirani James and I looked at the Intercol right here in Phoenix, Arizona. I was in Phoenix.
Arizona, yeah.
Right? We looked at Intercol right in the hotel. I'm in Phoenix this year again. So I'm wondering whether it will be a repeat. So I have to, not just Kirani.
You gotta call him, yeah.
Yamali Felix already sent me a message. He's actually in Boston this weekend participating in the indoors.
In the NCAA championship, yeah.
He's representing Arizona State University.
Oh, okay, yeah. My girl is jumping this afternoon.
He's just there for the 4x4. They have, in fact, they have the fastest indoor time in the US.
Going in.
So he already said to me that, hey guys, when I'm back, he'll be back on Sunday. We have to hang out. The GBSS group we have to hang out. And I think it's probably pre-celebration.
Pre-celebration,
but no, I want to agree with you that this and I think it builds the excitement is building, and it creates that sort of atmosphere where folks, and by the way, I'm enjoying the trash talking, on social media. Folks are already, making their predictions. There are folks who convinced that because of the exploits of St. Andrews in the primary school, that they believe that SAS will win.
SAS,
and, and the guys from Tanti believe that it's No, they're not giving up. I saw some comments where GBS has already said, "Hey guys, I know PBC, you want something? We'll probably give you the March pass." And so a lot of things are, yeah. So look,
And
Chris
that
is
one
saying
make
SAS, yeah,
and that one make this sport so amazing. Yes, deputy, I know, I understand, but it's okay. Yes, I understand. But that would make the sport so interesting. That's why we pledging to the patrons who are home to go and support, to get out there and support. And if you can't make it and you have to do it online, you have to pay for the subscription and just watch it, and be a part of it.
yeah,
Some way, somehow, be a part of it. Wear your colors at work. Is a time for you to wear your school colors at work. Not your uniform, because some of them the uniform could still fit them. But where wear your school colors, wear your the t-shirt that represent the school. Some of them might want to go to work in their tie, that support, whatever it takes to support. Certainly it's going to be a year of excitement, like I said, due to everything that's happening in Grenada in 2024 with 100 years of athletics, 50 years of independence. We hosting. I believe this could be one of the best CARIFTA games that may ever pass through, in the Caribbean, from any nation. I think this one is going to be something spectacular. Certainly support any way you can, support. Truly looking, that would be truly a blessing. It doesn't matter where you are at, support. So certainly, I will be wearing, in my McDonald College, t-shirt, and yeah, I'm gonna have to wash it every day and put it on, but I will have it on, for all the 3 days. It will be on, so definitely it will be a fun time.
Some comments before we leave. Carl is saying, Lincoln Deputy, and I love the talk and banter. Right now, the gauntlet is thrown at me, and I'm determined to win Intercol in the not too distant future. So I can, as a teacher, coach, and principal. Right? So McDonald College is also saying that they have the confidence that they can win Intercol. GBSS is saying that. SAS is also saying that. For the girls, are we seeing the end of that rivalry
David's
between
rival.
St. David's and Anglican High School?
Uh, St. David's is always certainly a challenge. They always, and it comes down to, like we said, in the near future, maybe the upcoming year, you're going to see a lot of more clubs happening in the parishes. But those parishes that has a club have an advantage. The kids are constantly training, constantly being there. Those that don't have a disadvantage. But in the near future, you will see a lot more of clubs happening within the parishes. And I think coming up to the end of this track and field season, going into the September time, you will see a lot of clubs developing in other small parishes that could make a difference, to a lot of the schools. Definitely, I think that will happen. But schools like the St. Andrews, school like St. David's and the St. George's that has definitely a program that can help these athletes certainly makes a big difference. However, it's on the day that matter. Run fast or jump big. Throw far, that's what matters, because it's somebody who never did this before could come and win. It's just what happened in the moment and at the time. And I always say to people, it's the points that win. Not necessarily, the best athletes is the points, because something may happen, something might go off. It's always the points. So the team with the most points is the team that win. And like we said, we are the North, and the championship is going up to the North.
All right. Alison is saying the best $30 I will spend this year, Intercollege 2024, which is Intercol. And Toro says GBSS has some extra athletes to lend to other schools. The last time PBC won was when GBSS led. I just hope that with the implementation of pay-per-view, the official channels can upload the races online, especially the finals, because last year there were many good races at Intercol, but who can find them. That's something I probably will want to discuss with Mr. Olivier and others regarding the Intercol, because I think going forward, especially for some schools and some athletes, they may need some of those footage, and certainly it's one. Nerissa is saying, by the way, Nerissa Wells is a former athlete of the St. David's Catholic Secondary School. Yes, she was a former champion herself. She says all the way. Certainly, I know Hazel will be saying that too. So, guys, if you can't handle social media and the banter,
the pressure,
yeah, please get
stay away from it.
Stay away from it for the next few days. Despite what it is, when it comes
pressure will be on. The pressure will be on.
When it comes to Intercol, the lines are drawn. After Intercol, there's unity, right?
Yes.
Lines are drawn now.
Yes.
All who are friends are now enemies because
enemies. Yes, yeah. Just for the next 3 days. 3 days only.
Right?
Yeah.
Because our schools are now taking our priority, even in the household.
Household too, because you have the mix up in the house. You have the mix up.
You have the husband who's one school, the wife another school, and you know what? We war for the next days.
The vexation in the house. Nobody talking to each other.
After Intercall, we'll
everything will come back together. We come back together. Yeah. Well, it will be good, and like I said, it's going to be good. Those who are in Grenada have the opportunity to look at some phenomenal races.
Roger, I know that because I know the wifey. I think the wifey is
yes.
I think the wifey is sassy now, So I know I could understand,
Yes, certainly, man, certainly. So
thank you very much.
Enjoy people out there, and those who are at home, enjoyed. We out here to watch it on the social platform. But certainly enjoy it. And based on the viewing and how it looks at the primary school, and it was so nice and clear. Especially, I'm at work, so I have my phone on. Off my phone, it was really nice and clear. I could have seen everything. I hope the Intercol would be smoother and even maybe a tad better than the primary school.
All right. Thank you very much, Rudian. Thank you once again.
That was a pleasure. And to all.
Yeah. All right. Okay, then. So that's, folks, Rudian Sylvan, co-host in Toronto, Canada, and he's rooting all the way from McDonald College come Intercol 2024. I have my bias towards my alma mater, but certainly I'm rooting for good track and field competition. Wherever I see it, I will compliment those athletes, because I think ultimately Grenada and our athletes that will win. So I'm supporting good track and field, but certainly I want my school to win, but looking forward to that. And folks, if you're in Grenada and you can support the Intercol, please do support the Intercol 2024. And those of you on, especially in the diaspora, but even if you're in Grenada and you want to, there's the pay-per-view that you can you can purchase the pay-per-view, and you can get into all the action regarding the Intercol, follow all the action from start to finish. I understand it will be, more than that of last year, because it will be obviously a prelude to the CARIFTA Games. So a lot of coverage regarding the field events in particular, because we know a lot of schools, they score a lot of points. Mind you, the folks on Caracal, they have been doing pretty well. And, if, for instance, we know if there was just day one alone, sometimes Caracal will probably finish second or third. That's to tell you how it is. So we look forward to Intercol, followed by the CARIFTA Games 2024. It is March 30th, 31st of April at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. 12th, 13th, and 14th of March, which is basically in a few days' time, we'll have the Intersecondary School, sponsored by Republic Bank, though, Intersecondary School Athletics Championships. We knew previously it was the Scotiabank. We knew that the Scotiabank Intercol for so many years. It's now the Republic Bank Intercol Championships. Folks, that's all from my side, which is in Phoenix, Arizona. hopefully next week we'll still be in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be dedicating our program to a review of the Intercol championships, and I look forward to your company with me. And as Rudian said, that he will be in Montreal, not Toronto, you'll be in Montreal, and hopefully you'll see if you can join us. So until then, I want you to wish you all the best. Continue supporting sports, continue in whatever way possible, encouraging our sportsmen and sportswomen, not just our track and field athletes, sportsmen and sportswomen, football, netball, basketball, tennis, swimming, no matter what it is, we do continue to support them. Until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend.